Thank you, Roosevelt. Here's a song coming your way, Nowhere to Run by Martha and the Vandellas. Yes. Hey, you know what I mean? Too much?
Now, was that directly out of Good Morning Vietnam or what?
I've got the script sitting right in front of me.
Okay. I was just looking at my phone and doing other stuff while you were doing all of that. So,
all right, I'll do the real intro. Welcome to this week's edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Ken Campbell. I am Dylan Waugh, the sidekick. I am the Eddie Garlic to Ken's Adrian Cronauer. That's right, we're going right back to 1987 and the cast of Good Morning Vietnam because it's the off season. We're wearing our sunglasses, we're wearing our best Tommy Bahamas, and it's time to talk about the Stanley Cup that has been awarded. And maybe we should talk about Cale Makar. I heard he's good at hockey, eh? Ken, how are you?
Hey, look where I am, man. I'm in Grand Bend, Ontario with Bubba the Magnificent Bastard Wonder Dog. And it's just me and him, and we're having a great time.
just two crotchety old dogs having a good time, eh?
Yeah.
For those on the audio version of the podcast, Ken and I both have the sunglasses on. We've got the cash shirts going. I was thinking about moving my stuff into the backyard. It just was too much work. And This whole podcast is all about minimizing work.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So here we are. So Eddie Garlic, Adrian Cronauer, those are the main characters of Good Morning Vietnam. Adrian being the lively
DJ?
Radio DJ, which I suppose
the
would be
Robin
you.
Williams guy. Yeah,
you're the Robin Williams guy here.
I am.
The absolute boring as vanilla ice cream on a white plate sergeant that follows him around like a little lap dog.
Okay.
I figure that's fair.
Okay.
So before we get into it, check out kencampbell.substack.com. Check us out on Apple Podcasts. With Ken's Substack subscription, you can get this podcast directly into your inbox. And you can also get Ken's other great writing. Check us out on Apple Podcasts. Leave a review. Check us out on YouTube. You can get this episode cut into little segments. So if you want to hear something twice, if it's so nice, you got to hear it twice, you can do that. And of course, check us out on the Hockey Podcast Network. So, Ken,
I want to start with something because we got a comment from a guy who was pissed off that we talk about the Montreal Canadiens all the time.
Yeah.
Did you see it? Did you see it?
I did actually. I did.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to talk about it.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, well then I won't bother. Yeah, I think it was Ian Pollock or something, and he said, "Yeah, I love your podcast, love this, love that, but it's driving me nuts. You talk about the Canadians all the time." Yeah, well, they're God's team. What are you going to do? Like, seriously.
That's the intro. That's the thing for this is you calling Montreal Canadiens God's team. You know what I thought was actually very funny about that podcast, that comment, is that Montreal fans are always complaining about the media talking about the Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
The truth is that most of Canada's hockey media is based out of Toronto. And so therefore, what do you get the constant stream of information about? The Toronto Maple Leafs. That's and whereas I cover the Montreal Canadiens, and so my most constant stream of knowledge, I think that I have a decent working knowledge of the rest of the NHL, but definitely I used to reference them a lot and then I stopped. But since the playoffs, they were the last team to go to the Stanley Cup final with the Tampa Bay Lightning. So obviously I'm going to be talking about that in contrast to this.
Right. Yeah. I'm partial to the Canadians myself, obviously. Well, we'll try to be mindful of that, but I doubt we'll do anything about it.
So he's not going to like the next segment, which is the next hour is devoted to Shea Weber, Hall of Fame or not.
Okay. Yeah.
No, you know what? It is actually something that I know about myself, and I do try to make a conscious effort to change. So all joking aside, up yours, pal. So shall we talk about the winners first or the losers first?
Well, I think we should probably talk about the winners first, right?
By all means, let's talk about the winners first.
Yeah. Okay.
So the Tampa Bay Lightning, I'm just kidding because they're the grand winners, having 2 in a row. Colorado Avalanche, they did the thing that other teams have not been able to do, which is when it was up 1-0 for the Tampa Bay Lightning, I literally texted a friend and said, well, I guess Tampa's won.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's what Tampa does in elimination games. They score 1 goal and then give you bupkis.
Which is exactly what Colorado did in Game 6. They flipped the script entirely in the third period. It was 2-1. It was 2-1, and it was keep away. It was
remarkable.
Yeah, it really, really was. It really, really was, and I think it showed a level of maturity in this group that we were waiting to see, and now they've shown it, and they're worthy champions. I mean, they were the better team in this series.
They were the better team,
without question. Without question, they were from start to finish. They were the better team. They deserved to win the series. Even with the controversial too many men on the ice goal in overtime.
Oh, shut up about this stuff. You know,
like I'm not convinced Colorado doesn't win that game anyways, even if they call that goal back, because they were absolutely dominating Tampa in that overtime. I think Tampa, God love them. They just ran out. They were spent. They couldn't. They had no more to give. And they hit a wall, and that's okay. I mean, because you're playing Colorado, who earned their way to the final by, having by really getting there quickly. They win in 4, they win in 6, they win in 4. That's 14 games in the first 3 rounds. That's amazing. So by the time the final comes, they're a lot more ready to go, and they're rested, and they're not as banged up. Although Nazem Kadri and Valery Nichushkin were pretty banged up, but I mean, I think it was a worthy win for the Colorado Avalanche. They're absolutely full marks for it. No asterisks here, nothing. This was a dominant performance from start to finish in the playoffs.
Yeah, I completely agree. I wanted to talk a little bit about the goaltending for the Colorado Avalanche because, of course, you and I went back and forth about. I said that Kemper wasn't good enough, and you said he doesn't have to be. And I want to redeem my take.
And I was right. Shocker.
You were. I wanted to redeem my take just a little bit and say that the team, the Colorado Avalanche, for 13 minutes in the third period, did not allow a single shot on goal.
Yeah.
I did not know that was an option to simply prevent Tampa from shooting at all. Like if I'd known that was an option, if I know that Kemper was going to have to face 0 shots, then sure, he's good enough.
Well, like he said afterwards, it was fun watching the third period. Yeah.
Did he say?
But you know what? I mean, yeah, he did. He did. But I think through the first 3 or maybe 4 games of the series, Kemper actually had better numbers than Vasilevsky.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I mean, Tampa didn't crush them in the goaltending category in this series. And so that was, I think, part of the reason why it didn't go their way. They had to crush Colorado in the goaltending department in order to win this series. And they didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to your point, Colorado, just the thing that I was thinking about was we talked about last week how Tampa has more Hall of Famers, probable Hall of Famers on their team than Colorado does.
At this point, I would say probably. Who are the probable Hall of Famers on the Colorado Avalanche? Right now, it would be Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar. That's probably about it at this point.
Yeah.
That's probably about it.
But the thing that I was also thinking was that, and we both know, and we're going to talk about the Hall of Fame later, that it's really the Hall of very, very good. Right. It's not even, it's getting to be the Hall of not even very, very good. It's getting to be the Hall of pretty good or good. I find the standard has really started to erode, and I'll have a lot to say about that in a future segment on this podcast. A lot. The future segment.
A lot.
All right. Well, we'll save a lot of time for that. Like a lot.
Okay.
But what I was going to say was that Colorado, even though they might not have as many future Hall of Famers, they have 2 superstars, 2 of the top 5 players in the league, potentially. Yep. And I was thinking about that with Tampa, and as good as Braden Point is, as good as maybe Kucherov is the only one that falls into the superstar category. Like, they've got a team of excellent players, but none of them are Cale Makar's. And I mean, Nathan McKinnon kind of had a little bit of a down series this series, but a goal and an assist in the last game. He showed up when it mattered, but they're just like, they don't have the superstars on the team. The guys that you just say, here's the puck, you're LeBron James, take it and score. Well,
they do have a superstar in that they have the best goalie in the world. So he is the goaltending equivalent of that, but I get what you say. And they don't have the Cale Makar because there's 31 other teams in the NHL, well, 30 other teams other than Tampa that don't have Cale Makar because nobody has Cale Makar. Right. There's nobody right now in the NHL that does what this guy does. This guy is a unicorn right now. He is a unicorn. He's got a Hobey Baker, a Calder Trophy, a Norris Trophy, and a Conn Smythe Trophy, and he's 23 years old. Yeah, this is the kind of thing where we're used to seeing once every 50 years or so. This guy, I think, is going to be he's already in the conversation of best player in the world. But I think he's seriously going to be making a run for it in the next couple of years. And nobody does what this guy does. Nobody. Quinn Hughes doesn't do it. Miro Heiskanen doesn't do it. Victor Hedman doesn't do it. None of these great young defensemen that we're seeing coming up who are very, very, very good, none of them can do what Cale Makar does. Not a single one. I believe he's a premier goal scorer in the NHL, not a premier goal scoring defenseman, a premier goal scorer in the NHL. And the things he does, nobody else can do. Like, go out, try and find that guy. Try and find him right now. I was going to ask you a question about Cale Makar.
Okay. I was going to ask you a question about Cale Makar, which is, how would you compare him to, in his prime, Erik Karlsson?
Better defensively.
Really? I thought that in his prime, Erik Karlsson was very good in his own zone.
Erik Karlsson was Erik Karlsson's best defense was the fact that he had the puck all the time, right?
Doesn't hurt.
Way better goal scorer, more dynamic offensively, probably faster, just more. Like, Erik Karlsson was brilliant, but like, you didn't see Erik Karlsson going one-on-one against 4 guys and going in and scoring. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Like, that's what this guy does. That's what this guy does. He picks up the puck, and he did it in one of the games. He picks up the puck, he goes through the neutral zone, and he goes, "Hey, wait a minute, I've got a seam here." And then the next thing you know, he's in on a great chance. Yeah. I haven't seen a defenseman like this since, like, Paul Coffey. Even, like, I'm not even sure Paul Coffey's going to be remembered as good as this guy. I mean, they're talking about him being as good as Bobby Orr.
So,
and it's legitimate. It's legitimate.
We made fun of that take a couple weeks ago. Are you now on board with that take?
It's legitimate. Yeah, it's legitimate. Yeah.
I mean, we made fun of it, but it was more like, got to see him win something before we can start making those comparisons. And now he has.
Check mark.
Yeah.
Check mark. Won the Conn Smythe, won the Stanley Cup, won the Norris. Like, he's going to be in the Hart Trophy conversation in future years. I don't doubt that for a second.
Yeah. And
there's got to be some years where he's going to be the best player in the NHL.
I mean, and to a point that you made a while ago about awards voting and the fact that it takes place in the regular season for the most part, and it makes me think of that had somebody seen what Makar did in the playoffs, and not even using the playoffs necessarily to not even using the playoffs to color their opinion, but rather using the playoffs to go back and go, man, maybe I have not watched enough Cale Makar, and go and watch some Colorado Avalanche highlights. You know, he might have gotten a lot more love for the Hart Trophy.
Yeah. Yeah, he might have. He was. I had him on my ballot. I had him as one of my top 5. I did. Yeah. He wasn't a finalist, but I don't know if he. Well, I think he was. I think I had. Well, I mean, people can go back and look at it now. It's all public, but I had Matthews, McDavid. Well, I might not. I had Matthews, McDavid. I know Steven Stamkos was my 5th. Cale Makar was my 4th, and I can't remember who my 3rd would have been. I can't remember. But yeah. So, but anyways, you can look it up. It's all public knowledge now. Everybody's vote for everything. So yeah.
That's why I laugh. When people get upset about the Oscars, I'm like,
the
NHL awards are more, more like, transparently done and properly done than the Oscars, right? Like,
it didn't used to be that way. It's only been the last couple of years. Yeah. And it was the PHWA, the Writers Association, that elected to do that. Like we actually had we kept going back and forth every year. Are we going to do it? Are we not going to do it? We finally had a vote, and we decided that we were going to make our votes public, because I think it's right. It keeps us accountable. It keeps us on our toes.
There's a word for that,
It's called transparency.
Masochism.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I haven't got
my votes.
I haven't gotten any flack yet this year for any of my votes.
Seriously, so, I feel like you don't go to the grocery store without catching flack.
Yeah. I get so much flack. My nickname should be Roberta.
What?
I get so much flack. My nickname should be Roberta. Roberta Flack, singer? No.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No. R&B? No. Okay.
All right.
Up. Well,
this is on me, Ken.
No. Clearly, I underestimated your.
Overestimated, Ken. Overestimated.
I overestimated your ability to
this
recall.
Is two grammatical. This is two grammatical corrections I've had to give you in 2 weeks, Ken. This is slipping.
That's terrible. Okay, so Colorado Avalanche. Here's my take on the Colorado Avalanche right now.
Let's hear it.
I know they have to.
They're good at hockey.
Either re-sign. They either have to re-sign or replace Nazem Kadri. They have to either re-sign or replace Darcy Kemper. They have to either re-sign or replace Josh Manson. They have to figure out. They have to go to arbitration probably with Arturi Lehkonen. But to me, the absolute number one order of business for the Colorado Avalanche is to get Nathan MacKinnon under a long-term deal. He's got 1 year left at $6.3 million. They can extend him anytime they want. If it were me and I were Joe Sakic, I would make that priority number one. Not Nazem Kadri, not Darcy Kemper, not anybody. I would make Nathan MacKinnon number one priority. And I would say to Nathan MacKinnon, what I would do is, I don't even know when their Stanley Cup parade is. Have they had it yet? I don't even know.
No, I don't think they've had it yet.
What I would do if I were Joe Sakic is I would wait till the end of the Stanley Cup parade, and I would pull Nathan MacKinnon aside after the Stanley Cup parade and go, well, that was fun, wasn't it? That was a lot of fun, eh?
Catch him on an emotional high.
No, seriously. That was a lot of fun, eh? Would you like to try and maybe do this a couple of more times?
Yeah.
Well, okay. Then if you do, then we've got to sit down and we've got to talk, and we've got to talk money and term. And I'm not giving you more than Cale Makar. I'm not even giving you what I'm giving Cale Makar, because he's better than you. But Nathan MacKinnon has expressed, and this has come up before. Like for the longest time, he was the biggest bargain in the NHL at $6.3 million on a long-term deal.
Oh yeah.
And he has expressed a number of times that he doesn't really care. He doesn't really care if he's the highest paid player. I think he's shown that he wants to win. Okay. Yeah. So now is the time when you go, okay, we just won. We got a chance to do something really special here with this group, but we're going to need you to play ball with us. So you're not going to get full term, and you're not getting $10 million.
Right.
But you are going to get a chance. We are going to give you Braden Point, Sidney Crosby money or whatever, and a chance to win a Stanley Cup every year. And to me, that is priority number one, because you've got to keep the core together. I mean, as good as Nazem Kadri is, he's not a core player on that team, in my opinion. You need, the core players, are, McKinnon, Makar,
Landeskog,
to a lesser extent, Landeskog and Rantanen, maybe Devin Taves, guys like that. And championship teams can keep those cores together. Chicago did it a ton of times. They kept their core players, they kept their best players together, and then they just moved in parts in and out, in and out, in and out. Like if I'm Colorado, I ain't giving Valeri Nichushkin big money and big term. I don't care what he did in these playoffs.
Yeah.
I do care what he did in these playoffs, but that would be the biggest mistake, in my opinion, is to overpay Valeri Nichushkin for what he did in these playoffs, because he's not that player. He's also he's a guy, yes, who was a stud in these playoffs and was excellent, but he's also a guy who earlier in his career went like 90 games without scoring a single goal.
Yeah.
He is what he is, right?
Yeah.
So
he's better than the 90 games, and he's not as good as
exactly. And you know what? Guys like that, you have to view them as being replaceable. You want them? Yeah, sure. You want them there. You want to have them. You want them in your organization. You want to keep them if you can. But if somebody's willing to Barclay Goodrow, Valeri Nichushkin, then you say, okay, that's good. Go get your money. You got your cup. Go get your money. See you later. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
This is not a Habs reference. This is a Philadelphia Flyers reference.
Okay.
When Dale Weiss was on the Montreal Canadiens.
Okay.
Sorry. No, but there's time and time again, and your point of Barclay Goodrow, Dale Weiss is another one. Guys that overperform what they truly are in the playoffs. And nobody's saying that Valeri Nichushkin's bad. Barclay Goodrow is a good player. Dale Weiss is a good player. But they got themselves an incredible contract because of a one good playoffs run or something like that. And chances are they will never have even the opportunity to make that kind of impact on a team, because Barclay Goodrow was on the third line in Tampa.
Yeah.
He wasn't relied upon to be the guy. To your point about not Phil Kessel, pardon me, the other guy that was on the Leafs at the time, Nazem Kadri. To your point about Nazem Kadri, you've heard me say it before. I always ask when I look at a team and I think about, them winning a Stanley Cup, I always say, who's their Nick Bonino?
Yeah.
Who's their second/third line center that, can still pot 30 goals in a year. And I always think about Nick Bonino. But the one thing that I really, really, really wanted to get at, because this is a take that you made that just aged like fine wine, and you can go back on this podcast and listen to it, or just take my word for it. You said Artturi Lehkonen might have the most impact of any player moved on trade deadline day.
Yay for me.
Give yourself a pat on the back, Kenny. You get a gold star. But the honest truth is, Lehkonen scored the Stanley Cup clinching goal.
He did.
Lehkonen scored, was it the conference final clinching goal?
He did. And just like he did last year.
Just like he did last final clinching goal last year for the Montreal Canadiens.
Yes.
This is a guy that scores like 7 goals a year. There needs to be that the Dos Equis guy, right? The most man in the world.
Yeah.
Like
I don't score often.
I don't score often. Yeah, but when I do, I clinch playoff series.
But when I do, they're massive.
Huge. And
his dad's awesome. His dad is awesome.
Yeah, you've told me that before.
Artturi Lehkonen, his dad, his name is Ismo, and he's actually a coach in Finland, and he does some TV. And I'm sure he was at the final this year. This is the first final I haven't been at since 2003.
Yeah.
But I've had beers with Ismo lots of times, and he's like the greatest guy ever.
He seems like, and Lehkonen seems like such a great guy too. And
the apple does not fall far from the tree. Finns are great. Finns are great. Finns are like the most they're the most non-confrontational, low maintenance like people you'll ever meet in your life.
Yeah.
They're great. I love Finnish people. I love Swedish people. Love them.
The thing about don't let either Swedish or Finnish people hear you say that about the other, But the thing that I thought was so funny was on one of Lehkonen's goals where he's streaking up the wing. Somebody on Twitter, and it got a lot of play and a lot of stuff. He's saying like, "Oh, he didn't do any forwards crossovers. His skating technique's weak." Blah blah blah. And I'm like, who cares. He's there. He's fast. You know what I mean? Like, this is what drives me crazy is when you see these skills coaches, and goalie coaches do it too, and they go on Instagram and they show off these incredible, and it's like, well, why don't you do that when somebody's trying to murder you? How's that? Because that's what hockey is. Hockey is performing a ballet while 5 guys with sticks try to murder you. And that's what's so beautiful about this incredible sport, the best sport in the world that you love and I love. And probably if you're taking the time to listen to this podcast, you'll love it too. But it just, Lehkonen had himself a series just for the ages. It really was, for all the talk of Nichushkin and your take about, Lehkonen being the steal of free agency, of the trade deadline. Now, I want to put together my conspiracy theory board, with like the threads and the, the grassy knoll and the whole thing, right? There was a second shooter kind of conspiracy theory. Here we go. I write for HabsEyesOnThePrize.com, as you know. Okay. Yeah. The fellow that basically did mostly my job before me was the stats guy for HabsEyesOnThePrize.com maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. He got hired by the Colorado Avalanche as their stats guy. Nice. And then the analytics darling of the Montreal Canadiens gets picked up at the trade deadline by the same team that hires the guy who used to cover the guy, right? Mind blown. No, but isn't that just an interesting little string of, you got to think he had something to do with it. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you think. Yeah. What's the point of having an analytics guy if he doesn't weigh in on those decisions, right? Exactly. Well, you stay in your nerd room. Sometimes they do, and they don't get listened to. Yeah, they get fired in the case of Matt Pfeffer. But you got yourself a little dog there, Bubba, Ken. Yeah, it's Bubba the Magnificent Bastard Wonder Dog. Shut up. Okay, so do you have much more to say about the Colorado Avalanche? I mean, obviously they have the makings of a dynasty team. They do. They do. But they've got it. I think like I said, I think that priority number 1 is getting Nathan MacKinnon under contract and finishing his career as a Colorado Avalanche. Priority number 2, if I'm them, is I turn around and I say, here's a Chicago Blackhawks reference. See, I know other teams that aren't Montreal Canadiens. Is I say, well, we won our cup with Antti Niemi. Now, where's our Corey Crawford? Yeah. Who's getting us 2 more? Because let's just be honest with ourselves here. And look, take nothing away. He made a great clutch save on Kucherov in the 3rd period. A beautiful butterfly slide that he has let pucks go through 5-hole doing that exact same move, and it's not looked pretty. And he made the save in the 3rd period right when it counted. So, credit where credit is due, but I'm not hitching my horse to that wagon. Twice. Yeah, but you know what? Nobody was hitching their horse to that wagon this year. It was like, including you, who's saying, "Oh, they got to go out and get Carey Price. They got to go out and get this guy. They got to go get Marc-Andre Fleury. They got to go get this guy. They got to go get this guy." Well, they didn't go get that guy, and they won. Why do you think they can't come back with this guy? If Darcy Kemper is willing to play on a reasonable deal for reasonable money and reasonable term, I'd bring him back. Because for again, the record, I did not say Carey Price or Marc-Andre Fleury. Okay, some other people were, but anyway. No, I didn't. The thing was that I didn't have a solution though, and I fully admitted I didn't have a solution. I said this is not the goalie that I would want, but I don't know who is available, and you can go and get for that playoff run. So I did not have the solution. Right. And I'm fully admitting that. And I don't have the solution for this offseason either. Right, but to overpay in terms of term and money for Darcy Kemper, no. Yeah. No. You can find a replacement pretty easily. You can probably find one fairly easily. How much does Jack Campbell want for a chance at a cup? Yeah. I take him over Darcy Kemper every day of the week. Okay. Yeah. Anyways, just food for thought, but yeah, if I'm them, I'm turning around and I'm looking at the Chicago Blackhawks as obviously, they have been in the salary cap era kind of the reference team that we always go back to. Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, they won one with Antti Niemi, and they did not just turn around and say, well, let's run it back with Antti Niemi. Right. So. But it was Antti Niemi. It was Antti Niemi. Come on. Yeah, I know. Okay, let's talk about Tampa. Let's talk about Tampa. Can I tell you what I loved about the Tampa Bay Lightning? And a lot of people on Twitter hated it, but I loved it so much. What? They threw the biggest hissy fit They acted like they've never won a cup before. They acted like the whole world was out to get them. And that level of self-delusion is what winners, it's what it takes to be a winner.
Well, it's funny. My buddy Ryan Kennedy at the Hockey News, who I used to work with whom I used to work, he always said sports is about people lying to themselves all the time. You know, and it is. It really is. And I assume you're talking about the too many men call. Is that the one you're talking about?
I'm talking about the too many men. I'm talking about the cross checks. I'm talking about breaking the sticks. I'm talking about Kucherov throwing his gloves at the equipment manager. I'm talking about all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. With the too many men call, I really, really think, and I could be wrong, and maybe John Cooper will tell me this later in the summer because we're such good pals. But I think when he did that night, I think it was to take the heat off his team. I really do. I think it was.
You're right.
I think it was to take the heat. I think that was very calculated, and I think he wanted to take the heat off his team because. Go back and watch that overtime. Like you might as well, they might as well have been playing Sweet Georgia Brown over the loudspeakers while that thing was going on because Colorado had the puck the whole time. They were dominant.
That was the most disappointing overtime for me. I was so excited that it was overtime. My wife was tired. She went to bed. I went and I put dishes in the dishwasher, and then I cracked open one of those non-alcoholic Heinekens that are actually pretty good. And I poured myself a bowl of chips, and I sat down on the couch, and then I saw this game has ended.
Yeah.
I had to go back and watch it. I was so excited to just settle in for some.
See, that's one of those ones where
that's fight, right?
See, like I remember back in the early 2000s, it would go to triple overtime, and you'd seriously consider sticking a set of knitting needles into your eyeballs instead of watching it because it was terrible. But this was one where you'd want it to go triple overtime. You wanted to see this.
Excited for it.
Yeah.
I was ready for it. I was ready for a long night, but c'est la vie. But anyways, my point is that I really liked that passion that Tampa showed. And I think that's, what do we want, right? What do we want out of our professional athletes? We're always changing the finish line. Yeah. We're always saying, oh, they don't care enough about winning. And then when they lose, it's like, oh, they're sore losers. And then when they, you know what I mean? It's like, come on, guys, piss off.
I have no problem.
I like the fact that a team of winners lost and threw an absolute hissy fit about it because they're coming back next year and they want to win.
Yep. I agree with you. And I don't think they're going anywhere in terms of being a serious Stanley Cup contender. I just wonder if it gets to the point where, the heart is willing, but the body is unable. Yeah. I'm wondering if we're not getting to that point with this team because they're going to break down. They're going to continue to break down because
their bodies are so broken.
And they played long playoff runs. They play a real heavy style. It's injuries I think are always they're always going to be an issue with this team. And now the way he has them blocking shots, I could see Anthony Cirelli breaking his hand and it's somebody breaking their foot or whatever. Yeah, so I think Tampa's. I don't think Tampa's going anywhere in terms of being a contender. I don't know if they're going to win another cup. I'm not sure they will. But as Ken Holland has often said, as you've just got to put yourself into that group, of say 6 to 8 teams that legitimately have a shot at winning the Stanley Cup. And that's all you can hope for. And then it just becomes battle of attrition, luck, hot streaks, all these other things. Yeah. And you put it together or you don't. Yeah. And then you win or you don't. But you have to be one of those teams that's got that legitimate chance to win. And I think Tampa's going to have that with or without Andre Palat, who's going to be an unrestricted free agent. They've still got a lot of their core tied up, and they're like I said, they're not going anywhere. I just wonder if they're not going to become one of those teams that I think the way they manage the regular season, and they've done it very, very well, is going to be key. I don't think they're going to care if they finish third or fourth in the division.
Yeah.
It's all about that 2 months. And so how they manage that, I think will be very, very interesting. But they're not going anywhere. They're a contender without question.
So 2 thoughts about the same guy's guy. We now know whose streak is more prevalent, Pat Maroon's or Corey Perry's. Corey Perry's 3 times finishing second is now intact, whereas Pat Maroon's, done after 3 times of finishing first.
Yep.
But can I say, and to that thing about kind of lying to yourself and all the rest of that with sports and stuff, Pat Maroon talking about how this was a particularly difficult loss because of what people played through. This is particularly difficult because of what people played through. The hell do you know about difficult losses? 3 cups on 2 teams in 3 years. Oh, man. It's like that time that I never went to the Stanley Cup final before. Oh, wait, no, I did. And then I won. Oh, wait, that wasn't a difficult loss, was it? Okay, the other time I went to the Stanley Cup final. Oh, but I won that time too. Oh, the third time I went to the Stanley. Oh, shoot, that was a win.
Damn it.
He's like,
well, and plus, I don't
particularly difficult. I'm like,
yeah.
But I love that. I love the fact that he's acting like he's never won a cup before.
Yeah.
He's never done it.
They're staying hungry. They
Pat
wanted
Maroon,
to win it.
Noted loser.
Yeah. But I don't really put a lot of stock into that whole we were this injured, we were that injured. By the time you get there, everybody's.
Oh no, Tampa was.
Everybody's
by a lot.
Yeah, they were. But you go to the final. You go to the final, and half your team is being kept together with elastic and string and chewing gum and wires. Yeah, so. Yeah, wham wham.
No, I completely agree with you. Tampa was way more banged up, partially because of the 3 long playoff runs, partially because they actually had to battle through this playoffs, whereas Colorado just sort of waltzed through. Right. Speaking of sweet George Brown.
Yeah.
But I just, I really actually I thought it was almost profound how hungry they were. It was as if they never had a meal before in their lives to win this cup. And they just came short. And this goes to the same thing. Something that I've always appreciated about your writing, Ken. Check out kencampbell.substack.com. Something that I've always appreciated about your writing is that you don't latch on to the same tired old narratives that I see so many sports writers will resort to, which is
thanks.
Oh, they wanted it more. Oh, they just didn't.
I've never used that in my life. I've never used that in my life.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it makes no sense. It makes no sense because if you don't want it, then what are you doing there? They want it just as much. And you're right.
You could argue that Tampa wanted it more.
They may have.
Honest.
They may have. Yeah. Yeah, you could probably argue that.
Their bodies on the line like crazy. Like you could argue that, but my point is that they just ran into a team that was they're superior. It was the more evolved version of the Tampa Bay Lightning in everywhere but net. And but I loved it. The other thing that I loved, Corey Perry in the water bottle. What? Did you see Kemper's water bottle?
No.
Corey Perry's up against the net after the play. Kemper's left the net or whatever. Corey Perry just casually pulls the water bottle out of the little holster, puts it on the net, and then as he's sort of turning to skate away, knocks it off the net on his way out. Just knocks it to the ice.
Nice.
Corey Perry used to be so dangerous and so, he was not likable because he was so dangerous with the headshots and all the rest of it, right?
Yeah.
But I remember last year, at one point, he did something to a goaltender, and the goalie literally found it so funny he was laughing, and you could see him on TV laughing. And you could see Corey Perry just doing this, I tried to get under your skin, but it is what it is, kind of thing. And Corey Perry is low key becoming one of the more fun players in the NHL to watch in his older age.
He is, really he is, and I think he's got more. I think he's rehabilitated his image in a lot of ways. Now he's the guy that everybody's kind of rooting for instead of just, out and out hating completely. Yeah. So I get it.
He's definitely become less prick, more just lovable old curmudgeon kind of.
Yeah.
But yeah, that water bottle was just like, I just love it. I love guys. And I've even seen play about that, saying that, oh, it's stupid, it's dirty, it's this, it's that. And I'm like, just get under the guy's skin. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, Sean Avery swinging the stick in front of Marty Brodeur, right? You remember that? The stick in front of Marty
but you know
Brodeur?
what? To me, Sean Avery, like, Corey Perry, when he does it, he doesn't make it about himself. Sean Avery made it about himself.
No, I don't like Sean Avery.
I had no time. I had no time for Sean Avery as a player.
I agree.
And there are a lot of guys kind of like that I don't have a lot of time for, because when they do it, they're not doing it to throw off their opponent. Well, they kind of are, but they're making it about themselves. Corey Perry has never made it about himself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, my point about the swing of the stick, I agree with you in general terms about Sean Avery, but my point is that it was a completely non-dangerous play that completely threw off the best goalie in the game at the time. And so you've got to respect that thinking. For all of the nonsense that he did, you've got to respect that thinking. It was really something else. So funny. Oh man, Brodeur was pissed off.
He was.
So do you want to go on to the Hockey Hall of Fame, or do you want to finish up on the Tampa Bay Lightning? Do you have any closing remarks?
Closing remarks. Best final I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
It was a good final. Best final we've had in a while.
Maybe the best final since I was trying to think about it, and the only one that I can come to mind is the Pittsburgh Penguins versus the San Jose Sharks.
I thought this one was better. I thought this one was better.
Was the best. That was the last time that I actually was like,
okay.
Up in the air. Who's going to win? How are they going to win? Stuff like that. Whereas like last year, all due respect to Montreal, the year before that, all due respect to Dallas, year before that, who
Boston,
did we have?
St. Louis,
Boston, St. Louis. I guess that was a toss-up as to who would win, but at the same time, it wasn't the most exciting style of
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. And we talk about Hall of Famers. I mean, St. Louis won the Stanley Cup, and I believe, like, they won't have any Hall of Famers on that team. Maybe Ryan O'Reilly. Maybe.
No, who might have been a Hall of Famer on that team, as Don Cherry used to call him, Peter Angelo.
Yeah, I don't.
Petrangelo.
Yeah, maybe. I don't see it, but yeah.
It's a good segue to say.
I think if anybody's a Hall of Famer on that team, it might be Ryan O'Reilly, but I'm not even sure he gets in. But anyways, let's talk about the Hall of Fame.
That said that O'Reilly's probably going to age very horribly and very quickly soon. So take that for what
that's interesting, because guys like that usually, they usually get more steely resolve with age. It'll be interesting. Yeah, it will be interesting to see how he ages. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I tend to think of the fellow that I was talking to, who I won't name drop, but I tend to think of him as a fairly smart fellow. So, there you go.
Okay. The action never ends at DraftKings Sportsbook, especially this summer. With tons of ways to bet on all your favorite sports, you can fuel your fandom and feel the heat of the season like never before. Plus, right now, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving new customers a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That's right. Make your first bet up to $1,000, and if it doesn't win, you'll get another shot to cash in. You can throw down on the action. Okay, that's it. 3, 2, 1. The action never ends at DraftKings Sportsbook, especially this summer. With tons of ways to bet on all your favorite sports, you can fuel your fandom and feel the heat of the season like never before. Plus, right now, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving new customers a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That's right. Make your first bet up to $1,000, and if it doesn't win, you'll get another shot to cash in. You can throw down on all the major action for baseball, golf, MMA, and more. Plus, with same-game parlays, spreads, money lines, over-unders, and props, your betting options feel endless. Best of all, DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. You can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN, make your first deposit, and get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That's promo code THPN, only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
So I'd say that's a good enough segue to let's talk about the Hockey Hall of Fame and the inductees this year. I almost said Finland. Sweden got a hat trick with the Sedin twins, Daniel Alfredsson. We got Roberto Luongo. Salonen is in. And Herb Carnegie gets his due.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said you've got a lot to say. Let's hear it.
Well, it's interesting because every year,
I will be the judge of that.
Well, this is what's interesting about this class is there's 4 guys in this class, and not a single one of them won a Stanley Cup. There's 0 cups.
Before?
It has happened only twice.
Yeah.
Once in 2009 or 10, when Valerie Harlamoff and Dino Ciccarelli got in one year, and he was the only one. And then the other year was Valerie Harlamoff and Cam Neely were the only 2 players inducted. So really, there was only one guy who could have won a Stanley Cup who was put in the Hall of Fame. Like, there's never been a class this big where nobody's won a Stanley Cup in 68 years up to now. Yeah. And you know what? Stanley Cups are not everything, and it really is the Hockey Hall of Fame for individual achievements, and the Stanley Cup is a team achievement. But I don't know. I think it's a talking point. Daniel Alvarez, watched him play throughout his whole career. Really good player. Really good player. Like, really good player.
Yeah.
Hall of Fame player? No, not really. To me, how do you, and this is where it gets really convoluted, because then you start going, okay, well, if he's in, this guy should be in. If this guy's in, this guy should be in. Well, you can't do that. You can't do it, because how can you say that Rod Brindamore, Pavel Bure, Keith Tkachuk, Jeremy Roenick, Tom Barrasso, how are those guys not in? And Daniel Alfredsson is. It doesn't make any sense, right? Yeah. So I've gotten away from that. And for me, the biggest problem is the selection process.
Yeah.
Right? It's the selection process. Can you imagine the legacies of these great players who worked so hard over the course of their careers? Mm-hmm. Their legacies are going to be decided by 18 people who get together for one day and hash it out over sandwiches and donuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this group has no transparency, no accountability, nothing. None of them ever gets to say why they voted for this guy or this woman and why they didn't vote for this guy or this woman. In fact, they can't. They've got to keep it all secret. It's 18 people. Yeah. 18 people are deciding this, and we just think it's okay. Yeah. It's not. It's not okay in any way, shape, or form. It's not okay. Yeah. And to me, the Hockey Hall of Fame is a public trust. I know they're their own thing and they can do what they want. I get it. Okay. Yeah. But they're also a public trust. It's also a public trust. And it's the guardian of the measures of greatness for all of us people that follow the sport, right?
Right.
So I think they have a duty. And I think they're falling hugely short in that duty. I think it's ridiculous. It's very much an old boys network. There are some women on this Hall of Fame selection committee. There's at least one. I think Cassie Campbell's on it. But it's not good enough. It's not good enough.
Saying that they're taking a duty on their duty.
That's what they're doing. Exactly. It's not good enough. It's just not good enough, Dylan. And it's got to be a bigger group. It's got to be a more diverse group. There's got to be more voters. And it's this year, with the awards, I remember that somebody highlighted an award that's an awards ballot somebody had Kirill Kaprizov as their number one guy for the Hart Trophy and didn't have either McDavid or Matthews on their ballot. I can't remember. And it was oh, this is a joke. This is why NHL voting and the NHL awards are a joke. No, it's not. No, it's not. They're not a joke.
More than 10 voters.
Exactly. It's not a joke because this guy's an outlier. And, we have enough people voting. There's well over 100 who vote, I think. Yeah. And that's going to be an outlier. And it's not going to affect the process. And we're going to get it right most of the time. We don't always get it right. I mean, one year Alex Ovechkin got elected as a first-team All-Star at right wing and left wing, and that was a massive screw-up. But for the most part, I think the writers get it right.
I think most people would agree that Matthews was the Hart winner this year. I think that most people are probably okay with that, aside from, the legitimate argument for McDavid. But I think most people are okay with Matthews as being the Hart winner. I think that most people are okay with Makar being the Norris winner.
Yeah.
I think it's, I agree with you. I almost wonder, like, if there was some sort of a situation of almost like a states voting thing, where it's sort of like the Professional Hockey Writers Association puts forward their candidates and they get, like, their vote of 3 people that they want in, and you know what I mean? Or yay or nay on X people. The broadcasters, yay or nay on X people, and then the general managers, yay or nay on X people, and the alumni association, yay or nay on X people. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I agree with you. It's their legacies are being decided here. And I mean, and this is the unfortunate thing, is that I've long since stopped caring about who is a Hall of Famer and who's not. You could tell me that player X is a Hall of Famer, and I'd just say, okay, or maybe they're not. Like, it's just, I've long since stopped caring about it. I kind of, like, I get excited when they get inducted, especially if it's a player that I loved. Like, Luongo is a great example of a player that, a goalie with a sense of humor. Gee, why wouldn't I like him?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But in the more broad strokes, it doesn't mean anything to me anymore. Like, it really doesn't.
That's too bad, because it means a lot to me, and I'm really passionate about it, and I don't like it. I'm really like, this is wrong. This is wrong that this continues. This continues this way. It's just wrong. And it's not going to change because hockey, because NHL, because Hockey Hall of Fame. They seem to think that this is okay. This is okay. They seem to think that it's okay to decide 40 years after Rogie Vachon's career is over that he's a Hall of Famer. They seem to think it's okay that putting Gary Bettman in the Hall of Fame while he's still commissioner of the NHL is an A-okay thing to do. You know what I mean? Like, it's not right. It's not right. Yeah. And I will rail against this forever. Yeah. Because it's not fair, and it's not right. It's not fair to the people that It's not fair to Pavel Bure. It's not fair to Alexander McGillney. It's not fair to Rod Brindamore. It's not fair to a bunch of other guys. Tom Barrasso. It's not fair to those guys. Yeah. That their legacy is being defined by 18 people who get together for one day.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I mean, like, if you think about any sort of transparent system, right? You look at our legal system and our jury system. The jury normally in their jury statement says why they've come to their decision. They don't just say, we just had a feeling,
Yeah, we don't. Yeah.
I don't like his face,
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, it's incredible.
So even if they were to do that debate and then say, here is why we, chose this person, and then also considered and why we didn't.
Yeah.
And it just, I agree with you. And, to the point about the cups, yes, it's a team sport. Hockey is a team sport, perhaps more than any of the other, football. But I guess a quarterback has a very outmoded influence on the sport, on the game. Yeah. But hockey is a team sport that is, to the extent of what a team sport is, right? One person can never win a Stanley Cup, period. Wayne Gretzky never won a Stanley Cup.
Right.
Right? Wayne Gretzky's Oilers won a Stanley Cup. Several. So, but I think that there's an argument to be made there for the whole having won a Stanley Cup thing. I really do. And this kind of flies in the face of most of my opinions, but I just think that, if we want it to be the Hall of Fame and not just the Hall of Very Good, it's basically should be like, if you didn't win a Stanley Cup, you have to be the best in everything else.
Right, you have to be Marcel Dion. You have to be Marcel Dion, or you have to be, exactly.
And you could argue that Roberto Luongo, for a period of at least a few years, was one of the best, if not the best goaltender in the NHL. And therefore, maybe you overlook the cup thing. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. You can make that argument. You can't.
Like you would have overlooked it with Ray Bourque. You would have overlooked it with Ray Bourque if you hadn't won that one. Of course. At the end of his career, that sort of thing. Right. You would have overlooked that for sure.
Yeah. But there's got to be some sort of a barrier to entry here, right? And so, do you overlook it with Daniel Alfredsson? Daniel Alfredsson was the 4th best Swede in the NHL at the time. You know what I mean? Like, never mind. Yeah. Everything else, right? Like, he's definitely behind Sundin and the Sedin twins. There's no two ways about it in my mind. Yeah. So I like Daniel Alvarez. Look, I think that he's a heck of a player. The thing that always surprised me about Daniel Alfredsson that I always sort of like forgot, and then when I'd watch him in the playoffs, I'd go, oh yeah, he can be incredibly physical when he wants to be. Yeah. Right? Yep. He's a great player. But there's so many great players. I've got news for you. It's the NHL. John Scott was a great player. If John Scott showed up to your beer league, no one would have a chance. If Chris Nyland showed up to your beer league today, no one would have a chance. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's the NHL for crying out loud. Let's have a standard here. And so, I mean, the cup's not the only thing, but it is something. And to turn around and say that, it's a team sport, so cup shouldn't mean anything, shut up. What are you doing playing hockey? Ask Austin Matthews how happy he is winning the Hart Trophy and being eliminated in the first round like a chump. Like somebody said that yesterday about, cup wins are overrated. And I was like, really? They are? Really? Like, they're overrated? Like, they're not everything, but they are a thing. They're not everything, but they are a thing. They're a thing. They're definitely a thing. It's so funny. I was just talking to somebody today who's up here for his son to do training here. They're from New York, and his son's training here in the off season. And I was talking to him, and I told him that I'm from Scarborough, and he says, did you play a lot of road hockey growing up? Right? And I just thought that was hilarious that like Scarborough was like immediately associated with road hockey because, think about Wayne's World and all the rest of it. And I said, I did play a lot of road hockey growing up. And no kid that I knew playing in road hockey scored a goal. I was normally goalie, obviously. Scored a goal on me, lifted his hands in the air and said, and he wins the scoring title, but isn't going to the playoffs. Like, no kid did that. They won the Stanley Cup. They won the Stanley Cup. Overtime, Yeah. Nobody won the scoring title in road hockey. Nobody cared. Yeah. You won the Stanley Cup. So, well, anyways, there we go. I got excited. Anyways, that's good. I thought I had little to say on the subject. It turns out I was lying to myself as much as anyone else. Well, I think we got that figured out. So, yes, we have solved the Hockey Hall of Fame. Yep. You're welcome, world. Bettman, if you're listening. Memorial Cup final tonight. Memorial Cup final. I've not been following it at all because I've just Hamilton Bulldogs against the St. John Sea Dogs. St. John Sea Dogs. Yeah. St. John is in there as the host team, which I hate. Right. They lost, I think, in the first round of the Quebec Major Junior League playoffs. Had 39 days off before the tournament started. And the other guys all had to fight their way into it. Yeah. And now they might win the Memorial Cup unless the Hamilton Bulldogs can continue their magical season this year. They've been amazing. They really were slow out of the gate in the Memorial Cup. I think they lost the first 2 games. They beat Edmonton to get into the playoffs. Then they beat Shawinigan in overtime last night or 2 nights ago. And now they're playing for Memorial Cup. So are you saying that there's issues with Canada's Junior Hockey Association and the way that we run junior hockey? Well, there's none that I can think of. Yeah, really, eh? Okay. Well, go to social media. Yeah. No, I don't like the fact that a team, because they won a bid to get the Memorial Cup, can be
thrust into it after losing in the first round of the playoffs. It's happened before. It happened. I think Ottawa did it once, and somebody else did it once. They beat London. The host
what if you just throw
London.
the first round of the playoffs and just train up for the Memorial Cup?
You know? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just throw it. You're like, well, screw it. I'm there.
Yeah, we're there anyways. Yeah. Let's not break a sweat here, boys.
Let's go out in 4, all be healthy, and we'll see you all in the weight room.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they all show up looking like specimens of a man, and
So anyways, the Hamilton Bulldogs are going to fight to keep the integrity of the Memorial Cup intact tonight, in my opinion.
No pressure.
Yeah, none.
No pressure whatsoever. Yeah. Before we get out of here, I actually noticed just as we were about to go live, you shot out a tweet about, and this is a bit of a heavier subject, but I don't think that we need a true content warning because I don't think that we're going too far into it. You threw out a tweet about fallout from the case ongoing against the members of Team Canada and, of course, the association therewith. And I just wanted to know your updates on that evolving situation and what you've heard.
Well, the interesting thing is the Canadian Heritage Standing Committee is going to be meeting on July 26th and 27th. They are going to subpoena people. They are going to subpoena David Branch. They are going to subpoena Ron Robinson, the WHL commissioner. They're going to subpoena Jill Courteau, the Quebec Hockey League commissioner. They're going to subpoena people from the third party that did the investigation. And these people will all be under oath. They want the NDA. They want to see the NDA. They've requested it. They've requested a bunch of information. So it'll be really interesting to see where this goes. Mm-hmm. I think this could shake the foundations of the hockey culture in Canada. I'm not sure that there are some people who are going to survive through this with their jobs intact. Yeah. Because the government is now, like, I've been talking to some people in government, and clearly they don't know the machinations of junior hockey. They don't understand them, and they're starting to learn them. And the more they're learning, the more they're wondering what the hell's going on. And now it gets into, other sexual abuse cases, things like competition, things like minimum wage, things like, all these other things. I think this situation will foist upon the junior hockey culture in Canada a lot more than it bargained for. And it could really, really go in some very interesting directions in the next couple of months. Yeah.
You mentioned something about sponsorship.
Well, Scotiabank has paused their sponsorship with Hockey Canada, and then Imperial Esso basically sent a statement saying, "Yeah, we're aware of it, and we've told Hockey Canada we expect better, but they're not pulling their sponsorship." So that's where it would be. That's where it would get really interesting too, is if some of these major partners like TELUS and Imperial Oil and Scotiabank, and I can't remember who, RDS, TSN is one of them, and a couple of others started pulling out. Then you would start to see, I think, things would really start to happen.
I apologize once again for the Montreal Canadiens reference here, but things did not start to happen in terms of cleaning house with the front office regarding the Logan Mailloux pick until Stan Hubert came forward and said, we are considering pulling sponsorship.
Right.
That is what got all of the wheels turning there.
Yeah.
And, as much as I hate to say it, money talks.
Yeah, it does. And
money talks.
But it's also it's not just money. It's also a statement that a company with the integrity and the sort of the history that Scotiabank has does not want to, at the moment, associate itself with our national sport because of this.
Yeah,
that tells you that speaks volumes.
And they sponsor half the arenas in Canada.
Yeah.
So, the fact that they're pulling out, you're right. It's huge.
It's big, and it's going to get. This is going to get really interesting. I think this is really going to. This is not done, and there are people in government, in the lawmakers in the halls of power of Canadian government who are who have to this point been pretty clueless about what's going on in junior hockey, who are starting to find out what goes on in junior hockey, and they don't like what they're seeing. And this may be the reckoning. This, I'm not saying it will be, but it may be. It might be.
Yep. Finally, last two things before we get out of here. Bob McKenzie making waves today. The Bob father with Slavkovsky rated 1 on his consensus draft board. Do you think that that's a case of recency bias, or do you think there's, I mean, obviously Bob's consensus draft board is not necessarily his personal opinion. It's a consensus board, but I don't think it indicates, and I've talked to Bob about this, it doesn't indicate whom the Canadians are going to pick first overall. Yeah.
It indicates whom the people he's spoken to, the scouts and GMs and that he's spoken to, who they think is going to be ultimately be the best player. Right?
Right. Yeah.
And so that doesn't mean that Montreal Canadiens are going to pick Slavkovsky first overall.
Yeah. Because it
means that this panel that Bob's put together thinks that Slavkovsky will be a better NHL player than Shane Wright. And I get it, you know, because the same people I've talked to have said the same thing. I've talked to scouts who said there's nothing dynamic about Shane Wright. Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. Like, and there were scouts who were really, really disappointed with the season he had this year.
Yeah.
They thought he could have been a lot better. They thought he could have been a lot more, had more edge to his game. He had a lot more to prove. And Slavkovsky, I mean, you know, it's all about projecting, right? Like, you know, maybe Shane Wright comes in and plays on the fourth line next year for the Montreal Canadiens if they pick him. Great. Fantastic. But who 4 or 5 years from now is going to be the bigger impact player? You know?
Yeah.
And obviously there are a lot of people out there who think Slavkovsky, and I've even heard people say Logan Cooley might be the best of them, might be the best one of them all. So
Logan Cooley's,
and we all know, and having said that, we all know that there's going to be a guy who gets picked in the 6th round this year, who nobody even has ever heard of, who's going to end up in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Like where's the Braden Point for this year? Where's the Anthony Cirelli for this year? Where's the you know that guy we haven't even been talking about him because we don't even know who he is. He might be right now. He might be playing Junior A somewhere in like Penticton or something. I don't know. You know,
or Minnesota High School or something.
Yeah. So yep.
Okay, finally, let's tease a little off-season content. We are moving into the off-season. We will have, in this off-season, Ken and I, we haven't talked about this recently, but we did kick around the idea. We will have some former players coming on.
Yep.
And if you're new here, if you're new listening to this podcast, you should know when we interview players, or Ken specifically interviews players or executives or whatever, it is not your typical interview. We have found out not only that Don Waddell dealt in porta potties on this podcast.
He was a porta potty, a possible porta potty magnate, like
magnate.
Yeah. He would have been like a porta potty king
he would have been making more money on porta potties
in like central Michigan or something. I can't remember where it was, but yeah.
Don Waddell, Bill Armstrong was still by far the funniest, because you just immediately started giving him the business. But, you know...
Was that the one where I said, you look so good, you look like you still can't play?
Yeah.
I think that was it. Yeah.
That's a good one, man. So, yeah, we're going to have some pretty cool interviews, and they're going to be good. Yeah. We were talking about trying to get Darcy Tucker on, because apparently Ken and Mr. Tucker had a little bit of a tiff that should be rehashed in video format. So
okay, well, we'll see what we can do with that.
We're gonna see what we can do with that. But
me and my buddy Darcy, we patched it up. By the way, we patched it up. We patched it up 5 minutes after it happened. 5 minutes after it happened, we patched it up. But yeah, so
well, he wouldn't be coming on if you didn't patch it up.
Well, I haven't even asked him yet. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. I hope he says yes.
Okay.
He will. He'll say yes.
He will.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So, no, but we're going to have lots of great off-season content. We've got, of course, the draft coming up. Ken and I have something in the works for that will hopefully work out. But if not, we're still going to have probably some of the, you know, the most okayest draft coverage out there. So all the point is, this is the first year of Hockey Unfiltered. The first season is in the books, and we thank you all for listening, for sticking around with us this long, putting up with us, putting up with our horrible takes, putting up with the few good ones sprinkled in there just to make it interesting. Thank you so much. Hopefully we talk to you next week, and take care.